Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up, but the people would all say lock her up, lock her up. Okay. Then we won. And I said pretty openly, I say, all right, come on, just relax. Let's go. We got to make our country great.
Trump says he didn't say lock her up, but is that right? Well, we have this Trump tweet from 2016 where he said Clinton should be in jail.
Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up.
I will say this, Hillary Clinton has to go to jail, okay? She has to go to jail.
For what she's done, they should lock her up. She's disgraceful.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Crooked Hillary, wait. Crooked, you should lock her up, I'll tell you.
That's right, lock them up. You should lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
We're scared. We're scared of an Obama presidency, and I'll tell you why. I'm concerned about someone that cohorts with domestic terrorists such as Ayers.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States. Now, I look, I
got to ask you a question. I do not I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you. Thank you.
So I wanted to play these clips for you because I think it demonstrates a couple things. One is it demonstrates just regular voters in USA, the kind of things they think, the kind of things they say, and also too how various politicians are going to handle said voters, right? What is the voter base like? So if someone comes up to you and says like, oh, I just don't trust that Obama, I hate that Obama, he's an Arab, like like how do you handle that kind of thing? And I think McCain did a really good job of handling the stuff, but it's tough, right? Because that's part of your voter base. The same way, what if the crowd starts chanting, lock her up or lock him up? Like, do you encourage that kind of talk, or do you try to tone it down? And the recent rally with there was an announcement of Tim Walz is now the running mate, and then Kamala Harris came out, and I could see both of them were essentially trying to calm down the crowd. I saw it with my own eyes, and I just played it for you guys as well. And that was a really important thing that I was like, okay, hopefully things can get better in the USA. Guys, if you've been watching what's happening in UK, it's awful, right? You have people attacking each other, and it's unfortunately the rhetoric in USA is also really negative. I see it in comments, guys. I do YouTube every day, and I'm just like, what are these people smoking? What are these people thinking? And then it's further fueled by you don't know if people these days on the internet are real people or not. Some, it happens. Sometimes there are bots that just sort of like try to rile up divisions between your fellow, country people, right? Your fellow people, right? And this is something I try to stress so much on this channel, and just have a chat with you. Go out and talk to your neighbors. They may not be so bad, right? Hang out with different types of people, get to know, why they think the way that they do, and have conversation with them. And you might find that you may have a lot more in common, and chances are you do, than you realize. These days, a lot of people are feeling a lot of economic stress. I see it in the markets. I see it with, unemployment going up, these kind of things. And sort of what a lot of people out there are doing is just looking for someone to blame, right? That's kind of the crux of it, right? Oh, I gotta blame this group of people, or I gotta blame that particular politician, or whatever. And here's the truth, guys. Very few people want to tell you the truth. It's tough out there, and whatever politician goes into office, don't expect them to save you. They can't change years of demographic changes, right? If our older population lives longer, that's not really something a politician can really change. And not only that, like, older people are living longer. There's more of them, right? So that's going to be a strain on the system, be it healthcare, be it Social Security, etc. And people are having less kids, right? So we're going to have less workers coming through the system. So you're going to have like a lopsided population where just there's a larger percentage of older people. It's not just USA. It's all around the world, right? Essentially the baby boom generation, etc. The other issue that you're facing as well is that with AI, with automation, these kind of things, there are less jobs out there. There was a time, and I've mentioned this topic before, but it's always worth mentioning, right? That there was a time when I was a kid, people used to put how much they could type, words per minute. That used to be a thing that you would actually put on your resume. These days, like, nobody even puts that in a resume. Or, there was a time when, like, learning to, say, use PowerPoint or Microsoft Word was like something you would put on your resume. But like today, everyone knows how to do these things, right? Everyone knows how to type and put that stuff in. The point I'm trying to make is that the job skills to be successful in today's world, right, are higher and different than they were in the past. And some people haven't kept up with the current needs of the job market. And then it becomes very, very difficult for many people. You hit 50 or 60 and you're facing higher costs due to inflation. And, you're like, oh, okay, what can I do? What job can I get? Or how can I survive? And there's no easy answer for that. I'm being honest with you. There's no easy answer for that. And then you look to whatever politician to try to solve, said problems. And try to blame a certain group of people or whatever for your problems, et cetera, like that. And I want to stress with you is that you have to depend on yourself, right? Is that a happy answer? These things, is these are happy things to talk about? Not necessarily, but it's realistic things to talk about because I try my best to help you by telling you the truth, right? I think it's better to tell you the truth than to lie to you. What can you do? In this world that we live in, right? If you can't necessarily trust a politician to come and save you, etc. So, well, first thing is hating on your neighbors isn't going to get you anywhere. I'm trying to be honest with you. Just hating on your neighbors is, and in fact, you actually want to be doing the opposite. It is way better to make as many friends as you possibly can, right? To reach out, be a friendly person, be a person that people want to hang out with, be a person that people want to work with. Than it is to be constantly pointing the finger and blaming all your troubles on someone else. In today's workforce, also too, if you want to work at the best companies, you're going to be exposed to all kinds of people. They may have a different religion than you. They may have different, political beliefs than you. They may have different, how can we say it? We'll just say sexual, likes and dislikes than you. They may be different than you, totally, right? Maybe from a different country. They might speak different languages and these things. But like, that's the world. The world is a really, really big place. And you're going to find that the as you go up the scale and you work at, better companies, is that the people you work with may come from all kinds of backgrounds. And the more capable you are of working with different types of people, the more better off you're going to be. Now, I understand for some people, we haven't had much exposure to different groups of people. All the stuff I'm taking doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You look at me and say, oh, why do I have to talk to some guy who lives in Korea? He doesn't know anything about the USA. People actually write that in the comments. Even though I grew up in the USA, I was educated in the USA, and I lived over like 12 states. I've been everywhere in the USA, guys. And people, just because of the way I look, people can't imagine that I could actually understand USA. Not only that, I know US history very, very well, and I know US cultural history very well, which are separate things. And these are complicated topics. And why do I have to, even justify my knowledge base? Because there's some people that, they think if someone looks a certain way, what they say has no meaning, right? Some people think that way. And this is what I'm trying to get you to think beyond that, is you may be surprised when you open your heart, open your mind, open your life to different kind of people that, like I was saying, you may get along much better than you ever thought. I was just thinking about this. There was someone I worked in a bookstore, and I mentioned about this stuff in my book. I don't mention this particular story. I was just thinking about it, but I had a coworker that was actually, and I don't know this particular exact situation. I'll just say that I think they're probably around 40, and it was definitely a woman, but she definitely dresses like a man. So I'm not sure how you want to classify said person. And I think they were living with another woman, and that was my coworker. And it also too was really interesting is said coworker. She even told me. She said, or he, I don't remember how we referred this person, but they said, there was at the time, they were like really against, we'll just say dark people, right? And it was, and I can't remember where she was from exactly. Because we'd have conversations at lunch at the bookstore, and she said as she got older, she started more coworkers of different, backgrounds, and her views started to change. And also too, she actually talked about how, her sexual preference, stuff like that, and those things started to change as well. And then we have these conversations all the time. We talk about religion. And one thing that's interesting about a bookstore is that there's like all kinds of books on the bookshelves, like all kinds of stuff that you can read. And every day, like, you have the world open to you to where you can learn any number of things. Like, there's just books everywhere. The same way that the people around you can learn any number of things from other people. And I miss those conversations. It was just interesting. I had never met someone like that, and she had never met someone like me. That's just one example, and I can give you multiple examples of various people I've met in my working life. One of the things that I've been blessed with, I guess you could say, or chose to, is I got a passport, and I've traveled to several countries. And in the USA, I'm bringing this up, I was just looking at the numbers. I guess, say, for example, when I was a kid, I think the US passport holders were like 20 to 30% of the population. So not that many Americans go abroad, right? Today, the numbers, I was just looking at it, younger people tend to have more passports, and Hispanics in USA tend to have more passports than regular American. And I think the American passport situation right now, maybe 46 to 48% of the people have passports. So still around half or less than half of Americans have passports. That means there's an awful lot of Americans out there that have never actually traveled to another country. And you could just drive up to Canada. It's actually pretty easy, or you could go down to Mexico, right? I'm just saying, those are just two that are just right there. And for whatever reason, some Americans just don't. And not only that, there's actually some Americans that have never seen the ocean before. I've witnessed said things, or never been on a subway, or never been in a taxi, right? Or in the same regard, when I used to live in New York City, I would meet Americans that didn't know how to swim. That was a real thing, because where am I going to swim? if depending on what school you go to, etc. And I grew up in Oregon, and in the second grade, and I hated it at the time. But you were actually required to learn how to swim. It was a real thing. Now, not every school has that, and I don't know about it in today's world, and whatever schools, if that's part of the curriculum, that you go swimming, and because there's a pool next to the school or whatever, and every school is going to be different in regards to that. Or some people, for example, may not know how to ride a bike these days. That is certainly very possible, depending on what city that you grew up in. Some people don't know how to drive. I'll give you, for example, my wife has a driver's license, but she can't really drive. There's a lot of people in big cities in this situation. Like, you go to driving school, you get a driver's license, but you just get it more for your ID, or you get it because it's like, how can I say, like a rite of passage to become an adult. But when you live in a big city with like public transportation everywhere, or easy access to taxis, like, why would you ever drive anywhere? And I mention these things because, like, there's any number of stories and experiences that people have, and the more that you get out into the world, you'll like appreciate that more. One of the things that I've learned, and I always mention my book, but just it's something worth mentioning, is you'll understand that people have different opportunities in their life. The big one, for me, I'll give you some examples. There's a lot of things I could talk about, but we went to Boracay one year, and that's in the Philippines. Really, really beautiful place. It's got some of the best beaches in the world. And when you're there, they actually have local people, so the Filipinos, and they'll sing. Why am I mentioning the singing part? Because it's interesting. They'll all sing American songs, right? So it would be like Rihanna, that kind of stuff. And I remember there was one singer that she's like singing the song "This Girl's on Fire," and sings it really, really well. Her English is absolutely fantastic. Sings it really well. And I was just thinking about this kind of stuff, to where, say, that person would never have a chance to have an opportunity to, say, go on the American Idol show and show everyone, hey, I can sing really well and become really popular and become like a Kelly Clarkson or that kind of thing. Just give me an example. There's some people out there that just don't have the same opportunities as others. I'm just using one example for someone from the Philippines. And one of the situations that we have now is, and everyone's gonna be different, but you may have, certain politicians that come from very, very wealthy backgrounds, like top 1% kind of thing, and honestly have no idea how regular Americans have to struggle, or regular Americans have to work. One of the things that, and I guess this thing kind of triggered with me when I just mentioned the Tim Walz thing again. When I heard him speak, and I've been seeing him more of his stuff, I just like, wow, this is like a regular person. Like, he had to go to the National Guard to get the GI Bill to pay for his college. Was a teacher for a long time. Was in the military. Was a coach. Like, my wife we were watching a little bit of him together, and she's like, this guy's like, it's like perfect for Americans to understand. Like, he's like, can talk about football, right? And if you wanted to be popular in the USA, just talk about football. And he's like, oh, and just bring up some old football stories or whatever. And I understand, guys. I understand. There's people that think, oh, that Walz people, he's so dumb. He wants to take over the country and tell me what to do, and they're all communists. It's like it's hard to have a conversation with those kind of people. I understand that. Trust me, guys. I really know. But in those kind of situations, that just may be internet troll. Your actual neighbors, is everyone going to think that way? I think the regular person barely follows the news, doesn't follow markets as closely as we do on this channel, and their sort of knowledge of things is like, I heard someone's an Arab or something. and then it gets worse with the spread of information. Why am I going through like this whole thing? I'm trying to illustrate, guys, that the world is really quite complicated, and sort of how you think about things is determined on your life experiences, right? And for me personally, I like to see people in leadership will do a couple things. One is lead people not necessarily to what their kind of, how can I say, their darker desires, like lock her up, lock him up, that kind of stuff, but like push back on that and say, hey, calm down. This person's a good, decent family man. I said, use the John McCain example. And hey, we may disagree on things, but we're all still American, etc. I know on this channel I talk about a variety of things, and I know it's hard to really, how can I say, talk about this stuff in a simplistic way, because frankly, when you do general videos on YouTube, you don't know the knowledge base that people have. I don't know who's watching exactly. I can tell what countries, etc., but I don't know. And so that's sort of why I try to walk you guys through exactly the stuff that I see, the exact stuff that I think about. And share some honest thoughts with you. And it's, trust me, guys, no idea. I get frustrated all the time about the situation in USA. I wish I could run. I sincerely wish I could, but just the reality is, people from my background, you have very little chance to run for a number of reasons. But I'll just say I don't look the right way, and there's goes way beyond that. But it's a very, very difficult situation in USA for someone like myself, and I'll leave it at that, because already people don't believe me or whatever, and it's a whole other issue. But it's something that I've seen throughout my life, and I'm just bringing up my personal experience, but lots of other people may have other experiences. Say, well, because of the way I look, I don't have opportunities, etc. The thing is, though, regardless of whatever situation that you're in, you have to figure out, okay, maybe there's going to be a roadblock here, but I got to just take a different road and find where there's opportunity, because there is opportunity out there. I can just tell you, I always knew, because I grew up in Little Oregon. I would say Little Oregon. I hated it there when I was a kid. Even though I grew up there, it just wasn't for me. I always knew there was a New York City or an LA. I knew there was opportunity. I knew there was a London. I knew there was a Tokyo, Paris, etc. I had books around me. I had access to maps, these kind of things. I knew there was going to be a place for me. And for those of you who are younger listening to this, I'm just telling you, there is a place for you. There's a place where you can have a job. There's a place that you can have a good life for yourself, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy. Figure out, the best way to get there. And if you really want to go to said places, right, you really want to get said jobs, really want to, save money, etc., do what's necessary to get you there. Oftentimes people, they kind of deep down know what's necessary to accomplish where they want to go. But they're not necessarily willing to make sacrifices. The same way, a simple example, if you want to lose weight, what are you going to do? You're going to eat healthy and exercise. It actually really is that simple. But we have all of these psychological things that we have to get over in order to get to where we want to go. And I know that's a long conversation, and I guess it's kind of similar to the situation, say US or UK. how do we make the situation better? We literally just stop fighting. It's like, how do we, and you know, I know it's more complicated than that, but I think it starts with learning to talk to your neighbors and you know, also being honest with each other about stuff. And again, I understand completely that these are all complicated topics. I just had to get some things off my chest and share with you. So I do appreciate your time, everyone, and I'll catch you on the next video.